and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Uganda is a country where single parenting, specifically single motherhood, is becoming almost normalized. For more on this, let me bring in Adeke Jacinta. She's a single mother and a police officer who also deals with family-related issues. I also have our correspondent in Kampala, Uganda, Frank Yiga. Hello and welcome to Africa Link. Let me start with you, Adeke. You describe yourself as a single mother. What does that mean exactly?
I am a single mother of two, which responsibility I have taken on for over a decade now. What does it mean when I say I'm a single mother? When I say I'm a single mother, I am looking at taking up responsibilities of bringing up children single-handedly, making sure they go through with education, seeing that I bring up responsible children. That means I'm playing a role of being a good parent, or maybe a good mother and a good father, since they are not exposed to their father. So I'm taking both that responsibility.
I'm assuming it wasn't by choice that you decided to be a single mother, right?
No, that wasn't by choice. However, I was living with their father earlier on when they were still babies. But, situations made me decide. So this was a decision I actually made and said, well, instead of these children growing up without both parents, it is better that I be with them and see them become through childhood into adulthood. So it was actually a decision I made. This decision to separate with the father was a decision I made as a person. And together with him, we had agreed we would both take care of the upbringing of these children, which later on actually did not happen. And I ended up being with the kids and taking care of them single-handedly.
Right. So a clear case of him shirking his responsibilities, not doing what he was expected to do.
That is it.
Right. I mean, you would know more than anyone else, based on your field of work, that you are not alone in such situations. There is an increasing number of single parenting, especially mothers. Why is that a growing situation, you think?
Truly, in Uganda, there is an increase in single parenting, especially with mothers. Because as a law enforcer, I've come across so many reports, so many complaints, from mothers. So I think one of the things that has caused the increase in single parenting could be, one of it is we have just said. One of the parents, in this case, we're talking about the fathers, shunning away from their responsibilities. I don't know what is actually happening, but most relationships that have failed to work, always it is the woman that has taken up the responsibility of taking care of the children. And once the woman accepts to live with the kids, the fathers will look at it like, okay, they have nothing else to do with these children. I don't know why they put it that when it has ended with the mother, the relationship ends with the kids as well. So I think that lack of responsibility on the side of the fathers is one of the reasons that has increased single parenting. Of course, divorce and separations also has led to that. Then maybe empowerment of women. In Uganda, I must say, and I must applaud the current government that has really empowered women. And because we women have gotten empowered now, sometimes there are people who look at it like, okay, I don't want to have a headache in this kind of relationships where they will not allow to be battered, they will not allow to be restricted by men, and they will choose to say, okay, I think I can do this single parenting.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one thing you said that really struck me was why many men think that separating from their partners means also separating from the kid. That was a very strong statement for me. And I'm going to go to you, Frank Yiga, and Jacinta, I'll come back to you in a bit. Frank, You've been looking into this. We know the statistics. We're talking about increasing number of single mothers from 20% to 30% between the age of 18 and 35. That is alarming. You've been also talking to some of the men. What reasons are the fathers given? I don't even know if father qualifies them now, but what reasons are the men given for not taking care of their children or helping with the parenting?
Well, Eddie, it is true. The figures, what you've mentioned, between 20% and 30%, it could even be more than that, because of personally, seeing them, I've been with them. Being a journalist, I've moved places and in churches or other workplaces, worship places, and so many places, and I've seen that indeed this could be more than 30%, especially single mothers, because they are most affected when it comes to separation. And men also have their reasons. They have their side of the story, why they walk away from, although it's not justified too much for a bigger extent, why they walk away from relationships and also neglect responsibilities. First of all, they also say, for example, technology, they say, others demand for DNA. This is strange somehow, because some of them start having suspicions on the children, and they say that, I'd rather have the results fast before, I accept my responsibility as a father. And in that process, the services are expensive, and men, they find themselves walking away slowly. They detach themselves, and eventually they get lost in thin air. You never hear about them, and they'll never hear about their children, because they had that suspicion in them that that child may not be mine and all that. It could be an excuse for them not to take responsibility. So that's the reason. Another reason they give is because they say that women use children as bait to get to them, because they didn't agree on having a child when they were having an affair. So eventually the woman gets pregnant, and then the child comes and he says, no, we didn't agree on this. So I'll walk away out of this relationship, and you deal with the children or with the child.
Right. I can't let this slide without letting Jacinta come in. So Frank, let's go to Jacinta. Jacinta, what do you make of Frank's submission? He's been speaking to, some of the fathers who are not performing their responsibilities, and these are some of the reasons they are giving. What do you make of that, Jacinta?
Yes, I want to comment on where he talked about these men say women use children as bait. Yes, because actually when we receive these cases from these mothers, let's talk about maybe failure to provide by the father, and the father is summoned. That's actually one of the reasons these men give. They would rather take the child away from the mother than give assistance to the child while the child is with the mother.
Really?
So that is it. That is true. This woman has accepted to live alone with your children as a man. But for you to give assistance to those kids while with the mother is really a big deal to most of our Ugandan men.
Why though?
I don't know. Maybe mainly it's because of economic, financial hardships. But even some of these people have got. You really look at it and you see the person is able to provide. One thing I also noticed, and what I've heard from most of our clients, is that this same man you have separated from is asking to continue sleeping with you, having a sexual intimacy with you once in a while, just for you to get assistance for the children from him. It's really unfortunate.
So you're either satisfying him sexually, or
That
you don't
is
get
it.
any help.
Or you don't get any assistance for the kids. It's as bad as that.
Frank, this is really bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is so alarming. It's bad, unfortunately. But also we shouldn't forget about because now the age group we're talking about is the maturity age. Men in 30s, late 20s, 30s, 40s. But it also stems back if we look at, say, the high rate of teenage pregnancies, where teenagers, boy impregnates a girl, and then in the course, definitely the boy will walk out of the picture. It will be the girl by herself all the way. So at that level, it also stems up, and then continues. It is so common in rural areas, and reports also indicate that it's between the age of 15 to 19 where girls have had children. And that's why there's so many single mothers. When you go to rural areas, you find them young as 19, 18, 20, and it continues. And when you meet who is, say, 30 years, well, they'll explain to you they've been living like that for quite many years.
Let me come to you, Jacinta, because Frank was raising quite an interesting point about in which cases that single motherhood is higher. And so maybe I would want you to hammer a bit more on that. Is that happening more with couples or men and women that are not, married, but are just, sexually active, and they get into it, and then a kid comes, and then, the men sort of say, bye, it's now all on you? What are the scenarios that really create single mothers more?
I would say this happens at all stages, whether these people are married or they are cohabiting, or just as Frank said, at teenage age. But mainly this happens with couples that are not married. Yes, they are living together, but without official recognition of their marriage, and at the teenage levels. Talking about teenagers, it's unfortunate that especially the victims who happen to be the girls, because whenever this happens, it is the girl child that suffers. Because I'm looking at mainly children of primary school going age and the early lower secondary. I don't know if they receive any education on sexual and reproductive education, because I guess if these children were given this kind of education, maybe it would have limited this. Because in my own village where I'm born from, it's unfortunate. Right now, for you to find a girl of 16, let me say, talk about between 16 and 19 years, there are very, very few. Most of them have become single parents already. They get impregnated, they try to live with this man, it doesn't work out, and they come back to the community. Those are the kind we have there.
Jacinta, what really has changed from the olden days compared to now when it comes to the issue of single parenting? You hear stories about how in the olden days, family was very strong, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. I don't know what you make of it. What really has changed from then till now?
What I know with the families back then, there was a lot of unity, despite the fact that we had extended kind of families, but there was a lot of unity, There were responsibilities that were given to, for example, aunties shouldered the responsibility of educating these children, especially on the family life, which included the sexual talks, preparing this child for, if you're going for marriage, that is what you're expected of, this is what you're expected of, which actually I think has changed now, because nowadays girls that are ready for marriage are not prepared for this. Someone just knows, well, I am of age, I am interested in this person, and that is it. We meet and we start a life. Because another thing I know, previously, there were arranged marriages. Your family would take time to study the boy from another family and say, yes, this is the right person we would want for our daughter, which is actually not the case right now.
Frank, what do you make of before and now in terms of how fathers are more present or not in bringing up their kids?
Today, things have changed. Fathers of today are not behaving like our forefathers. Today, back then, a father took up a child, no matter where the child came from, no matter the doubts, because the child was considered a child. But today, the father will demand so much. First, he'll want to know the paternity, which wasn't the case back then. Secondly, he'll want submissiveness from the woman. Once a woman is not submissive, definitely he'll walk out of the relationship, even marriage, because the woman is not playing by his cards. So those are the men we have today. And unemployment that the men today are using as reason why they're not, providing for their children is a very weak reason. It doesn't matter whether you're employed or not. You still to play your role as a father.
Jacinta, now come in regarding what you feel more needs to be done to ensure that both mothers and fathers are taking care of their kids in a relationship. Even if it's not a relationship, what really should be in place to push both sides, the father and the mother, to take care of their kid?
Can there be a more harsh punishment levied on every father or mother who fails to maintain his responsibilities of bringing up a child? Because what is currently on ground is not enough. And this makes these cases come into increase every now and then. Because if there was a punishment, for example, say imprisonment for a certain period of time, because of failure to maintain a child, I think other people will wake up and know that, yes, if I'm going to bring a child into this world, I need to be responsible for that child. So I think the policies and the laws should be revised and made a little more harsher than now.
Right.
Yeah.
Frank, I hope you're not scared with that statement. A little bit harsher laws to prevent men from running away.
No, I'm not scared at all.
Okay.
Because I'm also an activist in this side. I'm totally against men who play foul to children. You could play foul to your partner for certain reasons. You could have a reason. Definitely, there are those that are justified.
The kids should not suffer for the issues of the parents. Yes.
Exactly. This saying that when two elephants fight, the grass should not suffer.
Right.
The children should be let to grow because, they're children.
Yeah, exactly. Quick one on this. Frank, I'm going to let Jacinta have the final words here, and we'll keep it very brief here. Jacinta, marriage defenders have called for the introduction of a course unit at universities and tertiary institutions to educate young people about the dynamics of marriage. How could this really help reduce single parenting in Uganda, you think?
Yes. Universities in Uganda, I am sure, all receive adult learners. I believe by the time somebody enters university in Uganda, that person should be over 18 years of age. What would have been done outside will be done in the classroom, which will be really good. It will prepare the young people for those expectations in marriage. Both the good and bad will be taught, which is actually very good. Yeah.
It's been quite an interesting discussion, thanks to the both of you. Adeke Jacinta, single mother and a police officer who deals with family-related issues. Also, Frank Yiga, our correspondent in Kampala, Uganda. Thank you both very much for your insights. Now, while Uganda's increase in single motherhood is notable, it reflects broader trends across Africa. However, some countries have a better record than Uganda. In Rwanda, for example, young people are in a marriage rush. Couples aged between 22 to 28 are under pressure to tie the knot in a bid to gain recognition and be considered mature enough to take on responsibilities and grow their careers. This societal trend of early marriage is influenced by cultural and economic factors. On the other hand, the quest for acceptance comes with its own challenges, as some of these marriages are short-lived. Let's get more from Nasra Bishumba, our correspondent in Kigali, Rwanda. Hello, Nasra. First, tell us, why is there a rush for marriage among Rwanda's youth?
What I can tell you is that it's a mix of different factors: tradition, social expectations, and of course, the external pressures. In Rwanda, marriage is still seen as a milestone, especially for women. You could have 2 master's degrees. You could be a PhD holder. You could be a CEO. You could have amassed property, made a name for yourself. But our society will still look at you and even very openly tell you that there's a box that you haven't ticked, and that's marriage. So they expect you to be married by a certain age. After 26, after 27, they start asking questions. When you turn 30, they start to worry, especially if you're a young woman. After 30, they start to lose hope. And then you have the element of transactional relationships these days. Some young people, particularly those struggling financially, see marriage as a way to secure a better lifestyle. And of course, you have the influence of social media, where many of these young women are seeing engagement photos. They are watching these videos. They are looking at these extravagant weddings and these picture perfect, family moments. And of course, all these create a sense of urgency, even for those who might not be personally ready for this kind of commitment.
Interesting. Do young couples seek marriage counseling or guidance before exchanging vows?
It depends, Some do, many don't. We do have many religious institutions, particularly churches, that often require that people who are going to be married in their churches, must go through mandatory premarital counseling. But outside of religious spaces, counseling isn't really widely embraced. There are many who still feel that it's a foreign concept. Others feel like it's something that should only be utilized when problems, arise, when things go wrong, rather than a tool, to build a strong foundation. But thankfully, we are also seeing a change in attitude, especially in urban areas. More young people are warming up to the idea of counseling, and this is probably due to their exposure to different cultures.
Quick one on this before you go, Nasra. What is the probability that today's marriages in Rwanda will last?
The thing is, times have changed. The days when young women would sit and, for lack of a better word, humbly take infidelity, take abuse, whether it's financial or emotional, are over. We are talking about the woke generation, More and more of them are going to school, and more of these girls and women, young women, are financially independent, meaning that they are most likely not going to stay in an unhappy marriage just for survival. And that used to be the case. Women would be worried about what will come next. If I leave this home, where will I go, If I leave home, how will I be perceived? Of course, even with all that, we still do have culture and religious values. And these are the same values that continue to encourage couples to stick it out, even when things are sometimes really tough.
Nasra Bishumba, our correspondent in Kigali, Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Get the stories that are shaping the continent here on Africa Link.
Now, undoubtedly, addressing single parenting challenges requires comprehensive policies and educational initiatives that support single mothers and the broader societal context. However, it's not just about policies, it's about a shift in societal attitudes and norms. So, what do you think? Please share your thoughts with us on our Facebook page, DWAfrica. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. And don't forget to click follow and subscribe to our DWAfrica YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Eddy Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW